I'm your host, Shauna Griffiths. And as always, we're going to have a real talk with a real leader. And as usual, we're going to be breaking down a hot topic that's meant to help you take your game to the next level. So today, my guest is my friend who is helping me bring my first in-person recording to you all today. And so it is Michal Opperman, otherwise known as Mo. So Mo, thank you so much for joining us today.
So glad to be here. So
So Mo came all the way in from Minneapolis for this to the Denver area. And today we're going to be breaking down the hot topic of human first AI and more. And more. So Mo is actually a human first AI fanatic. Also co-founder of Portage, which is a mergers and acquisitions accelerator. And I am super proud to say that Mo is a first draft class leadership athlete.
So honored. And I'd love to, my co-founder, Luann Berglund, was asking me about the first class draft.
Oh, yeah.
And also asking me about the leadership athlete. And what I'd love actually is I was telling her the story, but it'd be great to hear you talk about what is so powerful in your vision for the leadership athlete.
Yeah, thank you so much. So gosh, where should I even begin with that? So I was an athlete. I played basketball at Michigan. I ran cross country for my 5th year of eligibility. And then in my business, when I started my business career, I went to work for Nike in the WNBA, and I had no idea what I was doing. All I did in college was play basketball and study. So I was not prepared for the business world, but what I did was transfer my skills as an athlete, what made me successful there, to the business world. Yeah. So things like resilience, being coachable, being adaptable, commitment to, as we were talking about earlier, being better than ever yesterday. And so I carried that through in my career. And then, I didn't think of this. I didn't even come up with this until sometime last year when I saw an article written about, they called it the business athlete. And I got kind of obsessed with it, as I often do with things. And it just struck me because it did have those elements of taking some of the approaches, but it was more about being competitive with other people and those type of things that didn't really resonate with me. So the way that I formed it into the leadership athlete was really a draw on part of my special sauce is leadership, and it has been a calling part of mine throughout my career. And so it's the same thing. If we can apply those same elements that I discussed, resilience, caring about the people in your care, meaning, as an athlete, you care about your teammate. You want to win as a team. You're willing to put the team first that time. You're going to get in there and get in your reps because it'll make you a better teammate, a better performer. And it boils down to pursuing optimal performance.
Yeah.
And so that's how I came up with leadership athlete. And the first draft class was, I got this idea where, I should say, I had been obsessed for a while of wanting to make t-shirts that represented what I was trying to say about evolving in that type of commitment. But I could never think of the thing that could would go on the t-shirt. And then when I came up with leadership athlete and people it was resonating with people, I was like, I'm going to get these t-shirts made. And so I did. So I decided that I was going to, for some reason, I liked the number 100 people that I know, or that there was a few that were referred to me or I met over time, like I met you over time. And I just said, what I want to do is just give this t-shirt to this person and invite them to be part of the first draft class, because I want to show people that you can be a leader in business and care about people in your care. You can have these characteristics. You don't actually have to be an asshole.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a middle-aged white man, there's a lot of stereotypes that go along with that. And so I have you as a white guy on my show. I have other people who come on, and it's because you're actually showing representation in the scene of leadership that I think is so important. And a lot of times the people who are leaders, who are getting the moment, on, in media or on shows, they're kind of that stereotypical, and they're not the person that may represent diversity or leading in a different way. So it just became important for me to help to elevate these voices and show people that you can lead in this way and make positive impact.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think there are a few things that have been really powerful about your vision and the platform. And first of all, like that T-shirt you sent is fantastic and was immediately co-opted by my daughter.
Oh,
who loves this T-shirt, so she wears that T-shirt around.
That's awesome.
It's no longer my T-shirt.
Pass it on. I love
that's
that.
right. Pass it on. What I love about that too is personally, we talked a little bit about this before, is that I didn't realize until our connection and looking, with your work at the program and the way that you do these things, is I didn't realize that I had not brought, I'll say, my athlete self into leadership and business, and I think that the reasons for that have to do with the way that sometimes competitiveness can show up, which is not my brand, or I think that is often that this is something we talked about earlier, is like, we're not competing against someone else. We're competing against ourselves, and we're looking for how do we become our best selves through this? And I think the other powerful thing about what you're doing is, like what you said, is representation, is thinking about, for example, as like VCs right now, is even though women-led companies outperform male-led companies on like every metric for startups, they're only 2% of the VC funding.
Right.
Right. So I'm with like the idea of equity and application support is very much both for, it's the right thing to do, and it's also the best thing for business.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I'm glad you said that, because I always tell the audience how I know my guests. Yeah. So folks, if you think that LinkedIn is just about like sort of pitch slapping, that's a good one, right? Yeah, that's a good one. Or, just getting solicitation all the time. Mo and I met on LinkedIn. I noticed that he was showing support to some of my posts. Okay. Yeah. And so we connected, I think followed each other. And then one day I just reached out to say thank you. Yeah. And I thank you so much for being a leadership athlete, for you're a true ally. And, I see you support a lot of women. I know that in the work that you've done, which I would invite you to share, is the Harlem series or event, the art exhibit. Yeah. Yeah. And, I know that you support women of color, and, I know you support other things as well, but I just, I really want to say thank you. And, that's how we know each other, folks. Yeah. So if you see someone that you want to connect with, do it. And if you want to reach out to someone and just connect authentically, I think there's so much power in doing that. So, so that's how we know each other.
Thank you so much. I mean, thank you.
Yeah.
Humbled and honored.
Oh. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you were able to ask me, but I want to turn it on you now, because I really want to, like, AI and human first AI is a hot topic. Yeah. And I think, the listeners hopefully are wanting to hear more about that. And there's a lot of myths, there's a lot of fear, I think, when it comes to AI, but I would love for you to share some insights right away. Like, what the heck is the human first side of AI?
Yeah. I think that the what I won't do necessarily is, and we'll use AI as, I think, an umbrella for all these things, right? Because we dig in, and of course there are different terms, and where do LLMs fall, but we'll just talk about AI sort of broadly. And what I believe is that the best use of our AI enable humans, not replace them.
Right.
And so how do we, I came across an artist who said, I don't want AI to paint my painting for me. I want it to do my dishes.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that we also want to hear stories from other humans.
Right.
And so and I think that there's always a pressure, particularly in business, there's the pressure to do more with less.
Yeah.
And there's a push for, there are all these kinds of tasks that we see being able to be taken care of by AI in a human first way, which is humans are deciding which tasks to be taken care of. And I'll use an example. One is like AI can ingest 1,000 contracts and then evaluate them for gaps, themes, opportunities, whereas then people can figure out what strategies, innovations, and what they can create from those things. And so we're always looking at ways that AI is actually helping to accelerate the best in us.
Oh, right.
And I think we've talked about a few different things like, how can AI accelerate the development of vaccines? How can AI improve the way that we do transparent supply chain and circular economy, et cetera. But so I think that that's the piece is how do we make it be in service and collaboration?
Right. Okay. Got it. So what would you say to someone who is just really fearful of it?
Yeah. I mean, candidly, it's not going away.
Right.
Like the genie's out of the bottle. And so part of it is that I think that I think one is, it is that it's the worst it's ever been. It is the best it's ever been,
Okay.
and the worst it will ever be.
Oh, okay, yeah,
For
makes
AI,
sense.
and I think that it is, that that we also need people who are wary of AI,
Okay.
and people who are not invested in the development and the expansion of AI to be involved in the conversations around how we use it.
Right.
So I think it's actually so people who are afraid, I think one is it's not going away. So
find a way to get comfortable.
Find a way to get comfortable. Find a way for yourself to get involved in it, and also your voices are needed, but in an informed way.
Right.
And that's the other thing is that ostriching around AI means that you're not part of the debate.
Right. Right.
And we actually really do need to talk about things like representation. Mm-hmm. We need to talk about the biases that are sometimes built into models. We need to talk about governance. We need to talk about security.
Right.
There's all these things, and we need everyone's voice.
Right.
To see doing that.
So if someone's wanting to integrate more AI or AI more into their business, do you also recommend that they take steps to, I want to say, do that responsibly? So are there are there other things that they have to put in place when they bring AI into a work environment? I'm literally curious because I saw an organization where, they just had some people using it and they didn't have the steps to kind of protect against challenges, some basically coming up with something that was already out there in the marketplace and claiming it was theirs.
I see.
So I'm just curious because, how do you go about it responsibly in an organization is I think what I'm getting at.
Yeah, it's interesting because most of the AI, the latest stats are that, it's being used by individuals,
right?
Almost a little surreptitiously, right? And I think one of the exceptions to that has been Moderna, which is actually taking a structural approach to move that into, so they have a partnership with OpenAI, and what they're doing is have a very strategic and purposeful way of actually having AI in every single role and purpose in there, but so that they're able to actually control that. So I think I think there are a few ways that you can go about it. One is to identify use cases, right? That we're going to say we're going to use this to do the modeling on supply chain, or we're going to use it to even something as simple as first drafts of things, right? But I think that so your question is, how do you do that responsibly? It's a really good question. So I think there are questions around the who and how is it used. I think there are questions around data and confidentiality.
Right.
There are questions around feedback within the organization and community. So I think it's I wanted to give you a really succinct, easy answer.
Well, I asked a pretty big question that I hadn't prepared you for, so thanks for taking it on. I just think for people who are listening, I think it's important to kind of hear a little bit more, and if they hear AI and they're I'm open to it, but then what? So that's kind of what I was trying to just drop some nuggets that if somebody's out there and you're wanting to use it more in your organization, just think about some of these other elements that Mo just mentioned, and then go to the right person or resources to help.
Yeah, so we have a framework that we use, and the framework that we use is it becomes this. We're always looking at to what end.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that that's the piece.
Okay.
Is because, so I think that that's the piece is to what end and also planning for the implications of it.
Okay.
But yeah, I feel like my neck that answer is no more succinct than the previous answer was.
It was a perfect answer, actually.
Yeah.
But it helps me segue a little bit because I also know that walled, I'm going to say it wrong, like so garden walls.
Walled AI gardens.
Walls.
Yeah.
There you go, folks. I don't know. When you told me about it initially, I went into a rabbit hole reading about it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is fascinating. I think I knew about it a bit, but I didn't know the terminology clearly because I didn't even state it correctly. But tell us about that and tell us how that's fitting into the human first AI world.
Yeah, and I think that actually might be a good connection up to like what do you do in a business to move into AI. So I think with AI, I think one of the challenges with AI is that it is like a big forest that we get lost in, right? With like no guide, no map.
Right.
Which is okay. So you have so you're interacting with ChatGPT, or you have these people in the company doing this thing and that thing, and I think there's a sense of it can be almost as overwhelming as a blank piece of paper.
Right.
And so with the walled AI garden is the idea of like Harlem. You mentioned Harlem,
right.
And so for Harlem, what we did was working with the community was creating an AI experience that was all Harlem and only Harlem.
Oh, wow.
And so then if you interacted with it, it was about places in Harlem, history, policy, those pieces. And that if you were to ask a question about Denver,
right.
It would make connections between anything in Denver that might have to do with Harlem, but it guided them back to Harlem.
To Harlem, okay.
Exactly with that piece. And then the other thing that we're able to do is anonymize all the questions that were asked and the answers given. So then we could actually say, like, for example, there's a question around the racial makeup of Harlem. And the engine gave an okay answer. And then what we decided to do was we actually want to provide more context for the history of this and what that looks like and the why. And so then we trained that to give a fuller answer.
Oh, wow.
And so I think that's for Harlem is the case. And for that was working really, really closely with the community to make sure that there was oversight, feedback loops, ways of communicating in a way. And I think that for a company, it is creating the AI walled garden. So it's very much about the industry, market, company context.
Okay.
And so I'm just asking if it were manufacturing, then I'm like, the questions become very much like both guided and prompted around the things that are germane to that.
Okay.
So I think it's really a case of creating navigable, pleasurable, productive, smaller spaces inside that forest that are much more directed and curated.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
When I was doing my rabbit holing of walled gardens, I read something about how they're using it for school education. And that actually made a lot of sense to me because I think there's, again, a lot of fear. What are the kids going to, I guess, cheat or those type of things, or, get random information type thing. But it made sense to me that if it's this walled garden for them, that's like a safer ecosystem for them to get information to, and to just extract that information. It made a lot of sense. I also read about it being used in, I think, like the financial space.
Yeah, it's interesting when you mentioned the education space. There are an amazing company that they're Deb Mallon and Lori Ryan, this company called Mighty Doodle, which is around so it's around AI, using AI to help kids with dyslexia or who are neurodivergent, a different way to look at how they learn to read, spell, and write.
Oh, wow.
And that's very much AI driven, and that they actually have the outcomes are because often those kids just learn differently. And so it turns out to be in some ways like a way to create a space that helps that. So that the example of a walled garden that is very much connected to what you're talking about with like these spaces that are really supporting the particular needs of communities or people or companies.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you so much. I hope that helped you folks listening, because I think when you hear walled AI garden, you're like, wait, what? I was literally thinking I must be, I don't know, with my head in the clouds and not know, but Yeah, thank you so much for that. So we spent a lot of time talking about the AI side of what you do, but you also do a lot in the mergers and acquisition side of things. So, and that's a whole nother space that can feel overwhelming to people, myself included, even though I play in this space a bit myself. So can you talk to us about kind of what you're seeing in this space and maybe what's changed? I mean, we've all undergone so much change in the last, especially 5 years, but can you kind of, I guess, catch us up to speed a little bit on what's going on in this space?
Yeah, it is wild. So I think the thing that is unfortunately still the case is that 70% of acquisition deals fail.
Oh, wow.
And they don't meet the vision, the results, the performance, the projections that were expected to be there. And that is something that is this acute problem with acquisitions. And really the problem is with culture and people and execution, not because the deal was a poorly conceived deal. So that's one context in the mergers and acquisitions that has not changed as much as we would like to be. And part of it is thinking about that an acquisition is almost like two families coming together. Right. And but with the market itself, for a number of reasons, post-COVID, the interest rates, so the cost of capital, the election, there's been a lot of uncertainty this year where the velocity and size of deals have really cooled for the last year and a half, a little longer. What's interesting is that there's now indications from the Fed that the rates are going to come down.
Right.
The other thing that's interesting is there are 27,000 companies in global PE portfolios right now, globally, and that 50% of them have been on the books for 4 years or longer.
Oh.
And so, which they have to move those soon to either actualize results or to cut costs. And then at the same time, we actually have the most dry, people call it dry powder, dry tinder, which is like the most available capital, investor capital, that there's ever been.
Oh, wow.
And so investors are sitting on a lot of capital. And so we're actually in a space where 2025 is going to be a mad adventure.
Oh, wow.
It's going to be bananas. We're on the cusp of a lot of movement in these things, and there are So that I think is the M&A space is one where we have a high degree of risk right now.
Right.
That has been pretty longitudinally true. We're in a sort of the calm before the storm, or the calm before the a good version of a storm, right? We're sitting in this, and then it's going to be awfully amazing what goes on. Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Not in the M&A space, but in the agency side, something that I've heard, it must have been last year, was the motto was survive to 25.
Oh, interesting. I had not heard that. Oh, okay.
So I think as you're saying that, I'm like, that sounds a lot like that's what's happening in the M&A space.
Yeah.
People are kind of holding on. You've got investors holding on to dollar. They want to make moves, but aren't, all this other stuff. And then it's like survive till 25. And then, it's like, I don't know, all bets are off type thing. And when the kind of lid opens up.
I love that, knowing that, because I had this conversation with Zachariah at Thornton's Guard and Amay Alquiva are both filmmakers.
Okay.
And Amay actually he finished up a film with Viola Davis.
Oh, okay.
On Ebony Canal, which is on Black infant mortality.
Oh.
And Zachariah is doing a lot of work in sci-fi in LA. And that's also what they've been saying, is that independent film right now is in a funny, a limbo space.
Yeah.
But next year is going to be enormous for film as well. Post strikes, all that. So there's something that's almost like this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like this
we're hanging out.
I know, yeah. So it's gonna be so in some ways we also, I hear a lot of people, is that we're preparing, right?
Right.
It's almost like we're stocking wood. We're making sure our companies are, well operationalized, because it's going to be like that Memorex with remember that old commercial with the wind? Yeah.
Totally.
I don't have hair, so I can't, there's nothing to blow back. Yeah.
It's really interesting though. This pops in my head, which is showing my wooey side. But I have this thought that in the winter, when the ground is frozen, of course, people in Florida are not safe. I'm like, what are you talking about? But that a lot of times it's hard to get energy to move. It's hard to build things. It's hard for things to grow and bloom during the winter time. So I'm just saying, perhaps it's that we have to get through the frozen part of winter, and then spring will bring like this blooming goodness. So
I think it's true. I think it's really true. I think we're in a really interesting, energetic place. With a lot of this stuff. So
that's so interesting.
Yeah.
So then, are your worlds of M&A and AI converging? Are you starting to see, like, what are you starting to see M&A space?
Yeah, that's actually the like for Portage, that was the big aha for us, was that our team has been working on acquisitions for 15, 20 years, and that with the latest AI models, and what's also curious about with the latest AI models is that few people are actually even. Lots of people got their access to ChatGPT. They've done their things, you know what I mean, and some are continuing to work with it, but that very few people are working with the very, very latest models, which are mind blowing in terms of voice and image and also the holding information in memory. So there's a lot there that is, but what that means for M&A is the ability to collect time.
Oh.
And that's the piece, is that one of the things I talked about was the thousands of contracts being able to do that.
Oh, yeah.
That has in the past been a manual.
Oh, my goodness.
For people looking at each contract.
Right.
And that AI wasn't at a state where it could reliably do that work.
Oh.
And we're there now. Of course, what we want is human oversight.
Yeah.
But we can collapse, what is has been, 30, 60, 90 longer due diligence down to a matter of weeks.
Oh, wow.
Right. So it's just like how fast things can move. So I think AI is central in everything we're doing. Is even our EV of transformation, Heather Willems, does a lot of visual storytelling in the way that she brings cultures together. And we do sentiment analysis, themes that we're hearing, opportunities, whereas there are things that we miss as humans that we're able to use AI as a support and a collaborator, in recording meetings, and it sort of picks up things that we recognize that's really interesting, right?
Yeah.
And so we have the visual storytelling happening in the workshop stuff, but we're also able to do post workshop analysis.
Wow.
That allows us to be to also even identify who wasn't taught.
Right.
Which is a big deal. And so that's a place, and then also ingestion of data and assets, to figure out what a company should do. So AI is woven through everything we're doing with M&A, and that because there's the stat that is that if it takes longer than a year between the announcement and the separation, effectively integration, the average shareholder returns then start to become negative.
Okay.
And so you're actually losing money if it takes longer than a year, and that's often the case. And also from the human first part of it is the average is that 30% of the employees in the newly acquired company leave within a year.
Wow.
And so this is right. So this is the thing that we're all trying to be how do we help their jobs be better, cultural alignment, reduce the number of unnecessary things that humans are doing. So we're essentially creating abundance for them to do the things that they want to be doing, that they're energized about, that are actually leading to innovation.
Yeah.
So life's a long-winded way.
No, I love that you said that, because earlier I was saying for people who feel fear.
Yeah.
I think there's this opportunity in what you just spoke of, is this to looking at it as moment of opportunity, actually, because if you don't have to do the things you don't want to do anymore, then actually that allows you to evolve what you're doing, learn something new, grow, evolve into new, so you can actually elevate rather than feeling that the opposite of it. And I was telling you earlier, I said to myself recently, I need to come from a place of strength rather than a place of fear.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing when we're looking at something that's innovation into our world, we can actually look at it and go, oh, actually, that could be opportunity for me.
Yeah.
I think it's not very often that, well, actually, I see this as a good, something that good leaders do when they say to someone, what don't you want to do anymore? Like at the end of the year, you're going on to do the next thing. And I think that's important, but a lot of times people don't get asked that question. So they feel burdened by tasks they don't want to do anymore. Yes. So this is a really beautiful way, I think, for us to look at shifting our perspective and say, oh, AI can take some of this stuff that I don't want to do anymore and allow me to elevate.
I think that's really, that's so elegantly said. So I think that's exactly right. I love that the way that you put that in terms of the opportunity to actually improve your experience of work if you have enough, if you understand enough about AI to know what it can and can't do.
Right.
Then you can almost start doing your what's that the grid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stuff I want to do that works for me. Yeah. Don't
be a companion or yeah.
Right. Yeah. Totally. I think it's also interesting what you were talking about the speed of deal making. Just what we were speaking earlier, folks, about deal making, and that that when it starts to lull, either there really is a reason why it's lulling, or the deal's not going to get done, and then it's a lot of time wasted when you could be using that time more effectively to get a deal done elsewhere. So I just appreciate and kind of want to put an exclamation around you saying that these are tools to help the deals just get done faster.
Yeah.
And I think that just helps the quality of people's enjoyment in deal making, can help a lot of those things move more smoothly. I don't hear you saying it as like, oh, then you just do deals like crazy fast and, do, maximize the amount of deals per se. It's more about making the deal making process more efficient. That's what I think you're saying.
Absolutely,
right?
That's a great way. That's a great clarification because you're absolutely right because it's not trying to bring more urgency in.
Right.
Like we always think in terms of velocity versus urgency.
Right.
And that is exactly right, which is that, I mean, for most people, sometimes a deal is done by one group. Mm-hmm. And then it is the responsibility of people in the company who usually have other jobs to figure out how to pull that in. And that can be a misery.
Yeah.
Like trying to integrate an acquisition it can be contentious.
Yeah.
It is a lot of this busy work by people who are also, that's not their training or their passion or their vocation. And so it is a sense of like that for us is the best things we could hear is that it meant that people were getting more sleep.
Yeah.
Right? That people are actually enjoying their jobs, that they actually weren't and that it wasn't like they're white knuckling, gritted teeth, having to do this, and instead they can think about because people like leaders want to be creating abundance for their people, and hopefully, the best leaders.
Yes.
And I think with people is then, they didn't get into their jobs to want to pour through thousands of documents.
Yeah.
So it is like and there are opportunities, like you said, opportunities for that, and opportunities to also reignite your passion if that's been lagging. Yeah.
I loved how you talked about the integration element and helping that because I think so much time gets spent talking about the merger and acquisition or focus on that. And then it's then it happens and then it's well, just kind of you're off to the wolves, the right. people. So I like how you're bringing up that human first element is actually helping to make that integration more efficient and effective as well. So to your point earlier, you stated the stat around the number of people who leave, which you said 30% or something.
Plus, yeah.
And so, that it's just, I've been through that as an employee a couple of times and it's really painful.
Yeah.
So I think that's another opportunity and just an upside to, to help all of us kind of think about the benefit of AI involved in mergers and acquisitions.
No, I think that your clarification between the urgency versus velocity, or that just trying to do more deals or whatever, is that it's ideally is you want those people to stay. Mm-hmm. You want them to like their jobs, and I think also when it takes too long, it means that the company is losing money.
Right.
So then they go into scarcity mindset.
Uh-huh.
And then scarcity decision making is always innovative, advantageous of abundance.
Yeah.
Decision making. And so that's the thing is that's what we want to move toward because
That's exactly the thing of that scarcity mindset is when you're operating from a place of fear instead of a place of strength. And that is something that I really work to catch myself in because that's when I'm either, operating well and in a way that serves me or not.
Same.
So,
yeah, so much the same.
Yeah. So you were kind enough to open up this conversation asking me about leadership athlete. But I would love to kind of turn that back on you and ask you, like, you talked today about the impact you're making, the innovation you're helping to bring forward. But I also know that you've been an athlete and you've been a coach. So I would love for you to share with us, how are you using that to influence how you're operating, how you're thinking in business? You said you had a bit of an aha moment. So I'd love for you to kind of talk about that a bit.
Yeah, you were responsible for the aha moment. So I was high school athlete, but then in college, and so grew up in Iowa, cornfields, wrestled, played football, that kind of thing. But then went off to college and sort of unexpectedly got involved in rowing, and then coached the University of Iowa women's rowing team for a bit. And I don't know if we talked about that.
Yeah, cool.
And which again, seeing Caitlin Clark has been, like
amazing.
And but I know exactly where she trained and like that whole town, which has been cool. And also we had talked earlier about this. Sometimes the opportunities come up that we don't see ourselves as being qualified for or knowing, and that was one of those.
Okay.
Where it's I was actually afraid that I was going to be like the bad news bears, like at the beginning, but a lot of learning there, and I think that the thing that was an aha for me, along with bringing what I'll say my athlete self into this, and the way that and things like peak performance and flow and those, is that I was thinking back then, and we were University of Iowa. It was right before we became a varsity program, and that's what we were leading into. And we weren't as well funded as the University of Wisconsin or Washington or the Ivies. And I realized that what we had to do was collapse time.
Oh.
And like Stephen Kotler and Peter Diamandis in their book Bold talk about that. We look for autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And that if we were going to compete against, and I'll even say if it's companies that are bigger or better funded, or but teams that are bigger and better funded, or is that we had to collapse time. We had to figure out how to get to mastery faster. We had to get how to get to purpose-driven motivation faster. We had to get team-to-team bonding faster.
Wow.
All those things that at the time I didn't realize that's what we were doing.
Okay.
But that was the thing that I think is still the case now, is that, and also a lot of this research around flow has been that doing things together actually accelerates bonding on a physiological and chemical level as well. So I think about that is that that we're all looking to collapse time for achievement, for purpose, for impact, while also trying to get back, or what is the most important thing to us, which is time.
Right.
So there's a way in which we want to So I don't know if I said that well, but there's this.
No, you did. I get it.
Yeah, because that's actually, as humans, that's what we want, is time with our loved ones, time to do the things we're passionate about, and hopefully that's our business as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love it because, as you said, Mo, I didn't know that you had that background when I did approach you and say, I want you to be a part of the first draft class of Leadership Athlete. But I could see it in you, in the way that you operated, the way that you spoke, when we met. And it is that desire to pursue optimal performance. And as we said earlier, that doesn't mean perfection.
No, and like we talked, I had Taco Bell yesterday. I just wanted a beef burrito and a Dorito Loco, right? I just wanted 2 Dorito Locos and a burrito and a big Coke. That's the thing that I love about something.
That helps you, but being able to do that helps you to stay on your game.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think that, again, I didn't know those things, but I could see the characteristics, the resilience that you bring to the table, that coachability, that commitment, that, wanting to actually help the others around you actually get to their next level. That's why you started liking my posts. That's why, you know what I mean?
Yes,
and so it was great. And I love the fact that you shared that with us about how you're thinking and approaching things now. And as you spoke, it was like, yes, you do that in business, but you were doing it as a coach, so That's so cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. So I hope everybody who's listening to this sees that like this is there for you if you decide. We talked about this earlier.
Right.
If you make the choice and take the actions, operating this way is very relatable, I think, and it's also very accessible.
Yes, yeah. And I think that is what we talked a little earlier about choice and decision is that I think we all know that there are mornings we don't want to get up there or like to, to work out or to do a thing and it is always a sense of like, I think that we're often doing it for not our present self, but for our future self.
Oh, yeah. It's
right.
so
like
true.
That's the thing is like, well, because no one ever walks out of a workout regretting that they did it.
Right.
They're always just like,
yeah, I got that done. And like one step closer. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I think when we tackle hard things, we think like, okay, that made me that much better.
Yes.
For the next thing. I do that when John and my husband and I go on these like crazy rides. I'm like, okay, because then I have a reference point for the next crazy ride that we go on. I'm like, oh, well, I did the other one. So I'm cool. I can do this.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really interesting. And then again, there's the parallel to work. And we were talking earlier. Sometimes you get into these roles or situations, you're like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And it feels overwhelming, but you're like, that's okay. Because I remember the last time I was in this, I figured it out.
Yep.
And I got, and I was able to get up to speed and then contribute and create impact. And so, again, practice does pay off, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I think I heard someone say that the magic is what we're avoiding doing.
Oh.
And I actually and it is that like the faith in that or like realizing it, but it is always like what is, you said earlier is sometimes your self-talk is like, where am I stuck?
Yeah.
Like, what am I stuck about? And I think it is that leaning into interrogating that is the path.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Totally. I mean, because that's something that we can give ourselves that question of where, like, how am I in my own way?
Yes.
Is this actually serving me to do this or not? I answer that for myself. I have to ask myself, but I'm the one who holds that.
Yeah.
If you said it to me, it might feel invasive or like you don't know what you're talking about or, piss me off or something like that. But again, it's like that's why I talk about like that responsibility and that accountability that we have to have for ourselves. And I also talk a lot about like we're just putting tools in our toolbox.
Yeah.
So as leadership athletes folks, that's really what this is all about. All this information is just tools in the toolbox. So that the next time that we're in a situation, we can pull from it and go, oh, I know the question to ask myself. Is this serving me? Is this serving others? Am I in my own?
No, I love that. I love the when you're talking about like what someone else can say or what works, because like one of the things that's so beautiful that you talked about earlier was the way that John celebrates and supports, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, and there's always this thing about that we are, I don't know if it's the sum or whatever of like the 5 people closest to us, right? That thing. And I think that's one of the things that I'm so grateful for with my co-founder, Luann. So because we're a majority woman owned.
Oh, I know.
And with Luann is that we have a relationship where she can actually say that to me, and did yesterday.
Good job, Luann.
Yeah, good job, Luann. She's like, I can't tell. Are you stuck?
Oh.
And I was like, I think I am. And she's like, are you getting in your own way?
Oh,
right. And
I love that.
I am.
But
I need to help figure out how. But it is that thing where like these people, because it is that I think that's the other piece of the leadership athlete for me. Who's our team?
Yeah, exactly. That's where my brain was going.
Yeah,
I was thinking like, what a great teammate.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing we were talking about earlier as well, is that when we see someone who is smarter or has more or different experience or has the ability to ask that question, that's the person I'm like, I want to be around you. That's not I'm threatened by you or, I'm going to compete with you. I want to be on your team.
Yep.
And I think that's so important. We talk so many times when people talk about leadership, it's this very me-focused element of leadership. And what I talk about in the leadership athlete, it's me, but it's we, and it's the bigger sense of the organization or the project or the world.
Yes.
So I think that team element, who's on your squad.
That's right. No, I love that because I think that was the piece that like in responding to your posts and what you're talking about was exactly that, where I was just, okay, she actually has a mindset and a perspective that I want to have more of and be more like. And I think about very recently, I was in Salt Lake City for a retreat on flow and longevity.
Okay.
And there I met Alex Doman, and he's a co-founder of the company Vital Neuro. What it is they're doing neurofeedback for flow performance. So it's a headset and the whole thing.
Wow.
But somebody too, where I had a conversation with him where there are a couple of things he says, like, I was like, oh, I actually don't know that. So it's like, I'm just like, tell me more about that.
Tell me more.
And I'm making notes because I'm like I'm going to look this up.
Yeah.
And I want to get smart about that. And I'm also like, I was like, okay, that's a guy I want on my team, or I want to be on his team.
Yeah.
However that is. And
Totally.
you sort of like, that's like in these people, it's like, what an opportunity when we come across people who are smarter, faster.
Yeah.
Doing stuff.
Now you know how I felt when I read Walled Garden. No, what did it mean? And I can't wait to tell the next person about it, and have you on the show and everything. So that's so great. But you have come all this way, and you've spent a lot of time with us here today. So I'm going to close out the show with just something that you had mentioned to me that I want to make sure that the audience hears, is that you're actually creating an AI podcast.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Tell us about it.
So it's called AI Alchemy.
Okay.
And what I love about, alchemy was all about transformation, creation, combination.
Okay.
Is the like the core. And so the podcast this fall that we're launching is very much about real world examples of how people are using human first AI to change their companies, their organizations. Wow. And so I want it to be very, very specific examples that a listener could leave that with a very clear, like, oh, we could test that out, or I get that now, or that's the way it could work. And so I'm very excited, and I am demanding, I'm asking that you, if you would be on the show as well.
Like the feeling of like, I want to be on, but then when you said it was about, I was like, I'm not sure what I'll bring to the table, but if you think I can add value,
absolutely,
I will be
there.
there.
Because I think we can also, I also wanted to be sometimes as like workshop.
Yeah.
Which is this idea of like, if we're thinking about, for example, moving the tenets of leadership athlete into an organization, how would that look with AI? Like, how might we accelerate the pieces that make sense to accelerate?
Ooh.
The way that we can actually change cultures.
Oh,
yeah. So,
I love this, folks. Stay tuned.
AI Alchemy.
So AI Alchemy, you called it? Okay.
Yeah.
So, and it'll be this fall.
It'll be this fall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So excited.
Amazing. I'm excited too. Thank you so much for coming all this way for all this time. Thank you for your friendship and being such a shining example of a first class draft class member of the leadership athlete team.
Thank you so much. This is wonderful.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everybody. Hope you enjoyed.